Hey everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host here at the Dark Stuff channel on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out my new video, and in today's video, it's another in my series called Pullin Random Shit from my record collection. Hey there, everyone. In my never-ending quest to come up with great content here at the Dark Stuff, I realized that there are loads of great artists and great albums that rarely even get so much as a mention here. To expand my repertoire, as it were, I came up with this series. I started by walking over to my record racks. Careful not to look where I'm reaching, I grabbed something from the collection totally 100% at random. Wow, look what I just grabbed. Naturally, I give the record a spin, and then I report back to you guys. Sometimes I pull some forgotten gems, a real classic. Sometimes I pull some total crap. Stay tuned to find out which of those we have this week. And the band that I pulled, this record is a mid-'80s record from a band whose career sort of dates all the way back to the 1960s in the days of Haight-Ashbury. Okay, so this week, talking about Jefferson Starship, Nuclear Furniture. This album came out in 1984 on their own label, Grunt Records. Let me just give you a little slight history lesson on this, because you probably are pretty familiar with the backstory of this band. Growing up, I never really had any sort of connection to Jefferson Airplane, like whatsoever. I never really got into any of their stuff. I was a creature of the radio, and I used to hear it, and I'm very familiar with their hits and stuff. It just didn't really connect with me. About 1974, the band split off, and most of the members went and formed this new group, Jefferson Starship. So, in my opinion, Jefferson Starship largely lied in the shadows of the Jefferson Airplane. They just were considered like their weaker version, the poor man's cousin, you know, whatever the expression that you would use to say that they were just not quite as good as Jefferson Airplane. But because I didn't really have any attachment to Jefferson Airplane, by the late 70s, when the band's sound sort of shifted to a more kind of radio rock sound, you know, they weren't really that different from like Styx or Journey or whatever. I started hearing their stuff on the radio more often. I started seeing them on MTV. They had a lot of videos on our early days of MTV, just performance videos, but they were good. So at that time, they did have some hits. They were like, you know, Jane, Find Your Way Back. I stand by that as a great song. Out of Control, Laying It on the Line, a number of songs. But gradually over the years, the members started leaving, and by 84, Paul Kantner, who is, I think, the final remaining member from the original days, left the band, and he sued so that they couldn't go on as Jefferson Starship, and then they became Starship after that. And you know them as, like, the proprietors of one of the worst songs in music history, and that's We Built This City. That's just, ugh. Marconi plays the Mamba, listen to the radio. I mean, ugh. So by the time of this record in 1984, there's honestly like no real discernible difference between what Jefferson Starship was doing versus what Journey was doing versus what Styx was doing. Mostly Journey, but I would say, but in case of Journey, they have a better guitar player with Neil Schon. They have a better singer with Steve Perry. The album was produced by a guy named Ron Nevison, who I have kind of mixed feelings about on a general level. I mean, he started out in the 70s. He did some big records in the 80s. He did the Heart comeback records. He did Ozzy Ultimate Sin, which was kind of a bad Ozzy record, but it was really popular. And he did one of the worst ever Kiss records called Crazy Nights from 1987 that is just garbage. So despite that kind of mixed setup here, I'm going to run through the tracks. You know, it wasn't all bad. There was some okay stuff. I mean, you get on side A, and the first track is called Laying It on the Line, and it's a decent tune. I mean, it was very memorable. I remember this from MTV and the radio. Kind of a hard rocker, a little bit by these guys' standards. I mean, you're talking like, if you're more familiar with, say, Journey Frontiers, it's kind of that level of hard rock. Like, that's about as heavy as it gets. The next song is called No Way Out. It was a definite single. I remember hearing this on the radio. Terrible, terrible song. It sounds like an 80s soundtrack. This sounds exactly like what Starship would become in the future, like starting basically with the next record after this. So the next song, Sorry Me, Sorry You. Again, I'm going to refer to the sort of Escape Frontiers era Journey, because that's pretty much what it sounds like, but Journey would have done it better. I mean, they were just better songwriters in general. All right, next up would be Live and Let Live. This one was just an unmemorable kind of mediocre sort of rocker. I can't even remember the chorus, at all. Nothing. And the last song on side A is this song called Connection. It is like embarrassingly bad. I mean, this was so terrible. It was like a synth-heavy song, just like I feel bad for them putting this out, and it's like out there permanently. And there's this weird section about 3/4 of the way through where Grace Slick starts doing this like weird, like almost Kate Bush imitation at the time, and it's like, it's so bizarre. It's really bad. It doesn't fit the song, and it's just like, wow. I bet if you could get some truth serum in Grace Slick, she would admit that like that is like the worst song she's ever probably performed on, except for maybe We Built This City. Okay, side 2 starts off with an okay track called Rose Goes to Yale. It's kind of an upbeat, sort of poppy song. I feel like I remember this one for some reason, but I don't think it was a radio song, so I'm not really sure why I feel that way. I think that's Paul Kantner singing, because it's not Mickey Thomas, because his voice is recognizable. It's not Grace Slick, because it wasn't a woman, so I think it's Paul Kantner on the vocal. I'm not really sure. Okay, after Rose Goes to Yale, the next track is a tune called Magician. This is another one that is screaming for inclusion on a mediocre 80s movie. Okay, after the tune Magician comes a song called Assassin. This is kind of a weird one, because it's like a synthy song that seems to be about like discovering that someone you know is actually like a murderer, and like what would you do about that? Like, would you, I don't know. I mean, I don't understand what the dilemma is. It feels like if you knew someone that you was a murderer, like you would try to turn him in or something, but I don't know, maybe that's not what it's actually about. It's Shining in the Moonlight, it's okay. Starts off like kind of mid to late 70s Styx, like Crystal Ball kind of era maybe, and then the chorus is just really awful. I wouldn't pin that on Styx in a million years. I mean, actually, Styx is a better band. Almost to the end here, so Showdown is it's kind of another mid-tempo. It's very boring. Lyrically, they're trying to act like they're, back in the 60s, it's one of these like protest hippies, like let's fight the man type of song, but by this point they were all boomers and they had, just cashed in and all this, so it just rings extremely hollow. Pretty weak song, Showdown. And then the final song is called Champion. It's just terrible, but they refer back to the Rose from Rose Goes to Yale and mention Yale, so I'm wondering, is this whole thing like a concept album? I mean, the hell are they, what's the concept? I don't know. I don't get it. So bottom line is, this maybe wasn't the greatest pull again, but you know what? I will stand by Laying It on the Line as a decent song. Maybe you pull that one out and maybe forget most of the rest of the record. Rose Goes to Yale was okay, I suppose, but didn't really improve the Jefferson Starship status in my eyes, but I know I do have some others in there, so who knows? Maybe we'll address those at a later time. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Take care.